Chris, what is our second main topic today?
Our second topic comes from Angela. It looks like after doing their little evaluation, the Academy has determined that Andrea Riseborough is going to get to keep her Oscar nomination. Apparently, no real rules were broken, and the only real points of concern were how some people worded some tweets. Did you see Marc Maron blast the Academy for even looking into saying they're just upset their multi-million-dollar campaign industry was being threatened? Anyway, what do you make of all this? Did they end up at the right outcome?
All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, Angela. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day. Of course, the Angela Riseborough situation with her movie To Leslie, which was kind of ignored during all awards season. For those of you who don't know about this, it was a little movie that made $27,000 at the box office. Not $27 million, $27,000 at the box office. So nobody had seen it. Even people in the awards industry never saw it. So it was completely ignored throughout awards season. Now, heading into the days of the actual Oscar nomination processes, a bunch of actors, including Cate Blanchett, who won the Critics' Choice Award, and during her Critics' Choice Awards acceptance speech, shouted out Angela's performance into Leslie. And then you had a bunch of other people getting on because suddenly people started seeing and saying, oh my God, everybody's got to see, you got to see this. You got to watch this. It didn't have the money for a big Oscar campaign push. It wasn't able to spend millions of dollars for billboards on Sunset Boulevard and sending out mailers and all that kind of stuff. They just had a bunch of people who were really excited and loved the performance, decided to get on social media and talk about it. Now, it was unorthodox. And there were even a couple of little rules. Rob, I was asking you the name of the, and maybe you can look this up just to double check here, the name of the actress who played the mother, Rose's mother.
Frances Fisher.
Frances Fisher, right? So one of the points of concern is like a Frances Fisher, you're not supposed to, in any of your campaigning, you're not supposed to mention the names of other contenders. It's a good rule. It's a good rule because you don't want to create, negative ads. You don't want to go, don't vote for Angela Lansbury. She's a bitch. You don't want anybody, doing stuff like that. That's not what you want the atmosphere of the Academy Awards to be. But, this actress who was not connected to the movie said, hey guys, yeah, Kate's great. Whatever's great. This person's great. Michelle's great. But hey, Angela really deserves your attention and your vote and stuff like that. Shouldn't have wrote that, but whatever, they did. So the Academy decided to sit down and look at the situation, and they put out their results yesterday. And I'm going to read off here what they said their results were. They said the following. Based on concerns that surfaced last week around the To Leslie Awards campaign, and let's go to my screen for this. Based on concerns surfaced last week around the To Leslie Awards campaign, the Academy began to review into the film's campaigning tactics. The Academy has determined that the activity in question does not rise to the level of the film's nomination being rescinded. However, we did discover social media and outreach campaigning tactics that cause concern. These tactics are being addressed with the responsible parties directly. There's a couple of individuals involved there. The purpose of the Academy's campaign regulations is to ensure a fair and ethical awards process. These are core values of the Academy. Given this review, it is apparent that components of the regulations must be clarified to help create a better framework for respectful, inclusive, and unbiased campaigning. These changes will be made after this year's Academy Awards cycle and will be shared with our membership. Okay, so basically this. Like we talked about the other day, the Academy sat down, looked at the situation, they reviewed it and said, yeah, a couple people did a couple things here and there, but it doesn't amount to, this person's doesn't deserve an Academy Award nomination, and it certainly doesn't rise to the level of this person should have their nomination rescinded. What they did say, which we said they would do, Rob, what they did say was, listen, in this new digital, we got to review some of the rules. We got to clarify what the rules are, because what a couple people didn't really violate the letter of what we were talking about. So we need to clarify that in the new social media era, all that kind of stuff. All right. So this is the thing to me. Again, I had no, horse in this race because I hadn't seen To Leslie until the night of Last of Us. After I watched The Last of Us a couple times, I put on To Leslie and I watched it. And look, I don't know what to tell you except she deserves that nomination. And if I were an Oscar voter right now, my number one vote would be Cate Blanchett for Tar. My number two vote would be Angela Riseborough.
Right.
That would be my number two vote. She deserves that spot. And I know there has been, and there always is every year, like when certain people get nominations, that means other people don't. So there's been a lot of questions about Danielle, about Viola not getting their nominations and stuff like that. But I would contend, after watching Angela's performance, and that it is absolutely one of the top three.
It's Andrea.
What did I say? Did I just say Angela?
Yeah.
I was thinking of Angela Lansbury, still in my brain. Andrea's in the top three. Like, to me, I don't think there's much. I think anybody who's watched this movie, I think most people, it's all subjective. Everybody's going to have different opinions. But I honestly think most people who have actually watched this movie are going to say she's actually a top three. And if there are people who maybe got bumped out, then it wasn't Andrea who bumped them out. It was Michelle Williams bumped them out. It was Michelle Yeoh that bumped them out. It was Ana de Armas who bumped them out. It wasn't Andrea, because Andrea absolutely 100% deserved that nomination. Now, you brought up the thing about Marc Maron. Marc Maron, who, by the way, has a little bit of skin in the game, because Marc Maron is also really great in this movie.
Yes.
He plays this like hotel guy who befriends her, but Marc Maron is in the movie with her. Okay. So understand that he does have a little bit of skin in the game, but he was right pissed that they even looked at this, because he's like, what? Because this threatens your multi-million-dollar campaign industry. This is what Marc Maron said here. That's a great picture of him, by the way. Marc Maron expressed similar sentiments on his popular podcast. He's got like 55 million listeners on his podcast, by the way. Several of those folks and others have questioned the Academy's review of Riseborough's nomination during the past week. Apparently, the Academy of Motion Pictures Sciences, or whatever the fuck it's called, has decided to investigate Andrea Riseborough's grassroots campaign to get her the Oscar nomination, because I guess it threatens their system where they're completely bought out by corporate interests in the form of studios. Now, I want to make very clear, I do not agree with Maron on that. I don't believe that's what campaigning does. It's still up to individuals to decide what they thought was the best, and they vote. You can campaign all you want to me. All you're going to do is make me aware. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to say what I think is the best. So I don't necessarily agree with Maron there, but a lot of people, there was backlash at first, then there was backlash to the backlash. Look, you're asking me, did they ultimately come to the right the right outcome? Look, all I care about is, did the best performances get acknowledged? And I can't speak for the other 3 or 4 slots on the ballot, but I know for this particular actress, for this particular year and this particular movie, yeah, the right outcome came about, because she deserved the nomination. I have no doubt about that. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Fume. Be smart. Don't start. Kick the habit. Put it out before it puts you out. All phrases we've heard 100 times, and yet we still continue to have bad habits. Today's sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. You see, Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. Because instead of pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals like a vape, Fume uses cores infused with plants like peppermint and cinnamon for delicious natural flavors. And Fume's new version 2 model is snappy and tactile. With an adjustable airflow dial and a magnetic end cap, your fingers will always have something to do. The device itself is really attractive, and once I popped in the core and took my first inhale of it, it tasted fantastic. Guys, the easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed to perfectly do just that. So head over to tryfume.com and use the promo code Campea to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. The Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors and the new version 2 Fume to help kickstart your positive habits. That's tryfume, tryfum.com, and use the code Campea to save an additional 10% off your order today. Anyway, Chris, we've been following this situation a bit. You, of course, unlike anybody else in this room, you have been a part of awards bodies. You've been on nominating committees and things like that. Did they come to the right conclusion here? And how do you think things might change moving forward?
Now, full disclosure, I still need to see this film, but I think that this makes sense. You know, ultimately, some things on Instagram basically are what threw everyone into a tizzy. And yes, this person had not been brought up before in other campaigns, but some of those other campaigns also have very flawed nominating kind of viewpoints, I guess, is a way to put it. A lot of people always do the joke, right? If you can buy a Golden Globe and then you earn an Oscar. I don't know if that's still the case. I don't know if that's how people still feel. But I think campaigning has always been a big part of award season. And how you campaign really doesn't matter, grassroots or otherwise. As long as you turned in a strong performance, that's really what matters here. Am I still a little concerned about why, Danielle Detweiler didn't get nominated? A little bit. But again, I need to watch this performance so I can have a better, opinion on this, a more informed one.
Rob, what do you think?
Well, here's the thing. There's a truism that in Hollywood, when you're young, when I was interacting with a lot of actresses in my 20s, I heard a lot from actresses. I went up for that part. I could have been better. And then as you get older, actresses change. Actresses are like, I would never have been as good as that she was in that performance. That's just people getting older and more mature. In the case of this movie, it was a bunch of people that saw this film and said, no one's seen this movie. It wasn't like, I don't think that there was some coordinated effort the way, say, Harvey Weinstein used to use Miramax and throw his power around and wield it to get nominations and to win. I honestly think this was, and if you look at the people that actually tweeted and put on Instagram, it was all admiration. It was like you saw this movie. The problem was no one saw this movie. No one even knew what it was. And people, I think, were standing up because low-budget indie films so often are overlooked by the Academy. And she delivered a performance for the ages. And you know what? You had other actresses that admired what she did that said, this was great. They weren't taking anything away from anybody else. They were just saying what they thought based on the admiration for their craft. And that's what happened. And they did it on social media, and people lost their shit. And it's like, look, this is the world we live in now. And I think Marc Maron is absolutely right. There's so much money to be made. Like you pointed out this morning, no one put up a billboard on Sunset Boulevard for your consideration with Andrea Riseborough on it. She had no chance in hell to get anything recognized by the Academy unless her friends and her peers, which is what you're voted on by, stood up and said, this performance is worth looking at.
Yeah, and then, we run the danger saying movies that don't have the money to put up a multi-million-dollar Oscar campaign, should those just not be considered? Should those not be looked at? And I mean, again, I'm glad, that the Academy came out and said, look, we've looked into it. No serious real rules were broken here. We're going to clarify our rules moving forward. It's going to be interesting to see what those rules are going to be.
I also want to clarify, I didn't mean to just say actresses. It's actors too. It's young actors all were like, I could be better in that role. And as they grow up and work in the industry and get more mature, they all say, that person was better than I could never.
I used to play in a lot of bands. The old musician joke, of course, is how many guitarists does it take to screw in a light bulb? Anybody? The answer is 10. 1 to screw in the light bulb, 9 to stand around and say, I could do it better. Anyway, question is for you guys. What do you think about this? The Academy has done its review. They've said Andrea continues to keep her Oscar nomination. No serious rules were broken. And maybe they need to clarify some rules on social media moving forward. What do you guys think about that? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there.